There's quite a few reasons. One is just to promote a healthy environment. Usually parks are designed for healthy activities. Secondhand smoke within even outdoor settings is harmful to health, particularly those with vulnerable conditions like children with asthma. Of course, cigarette litter seems to be the biggest issue for cities and communities. Adopting a tobacco-free parks policy generally reduces that litter that happens within park vicinities. We always look around changing community norms. We know our next generation of young people is the next generation of tobacco users, and creating those safe environments certainly helps. So just so in your packet, you have this lovely map. 120 cities across Minnesota have updated their ordinance to include this language. They're listed on the back. It's quite an extensive list from large communities, some counties, some park districts, other small communities. I worked with Moose Lake, Minnesota about 12 years ago in updating their policy. We do have support available for communities that decide to update their ordinance. One of the biggest issues around enforcement of this policy is just proper communication with those folks that are using your park facilities. Two versions of signs that communities have used. They're all metal outdoor signs available to the city for free. One's a 12 by 12, one's a little bit longer. Just letting folks know that it is a tobacco-free area. Like with any tobacco policies, usually education is the biggest key for enforcement. Folks that use tobacco usually look for where they can or cannot use, and having proper signs available helps communicate that issue. I think, Greg, you asked to talk about a little bit about e-cigarettes too, because they're included in this draft policy language.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions about the parks first, before I jump into this? No? Okay, so e-cigarettes are within the proposed policy language in front of you tonight. They're included for a variety of reasons. They're kind of the new latest tobacco product. We certainly don't want to exclude any one particular tobacco product when updating tobacco policies, because then you're talking about it in a couple more years. So I was just asked to do a brief e-cigarette 101 on kind of what they are. We'll go to the next slide. All right, so they're a battery-operated device. Let me just put mine together here. Come in generally two forms. One's a refillable device that actually uses the e-juice liquid to fill it up. These are typically bought in like vape stores or vape shops. The other one is a contained cartridge device. So that's typically sold in like a convenience store. There's been federal court cases that determined these are tobacco products. So I always get the question, are they help quit smoking aids or are they a tobacco product? And they are taxed and they are treated as a tobacco product here in Minnesota and across the nation. Okay, so why we're concerned about them. There's use, it's increasing amongst youth. On the other side of your packet, the Minnesota Department of Health just did a youth tobacco survey data. So use amongst Minnesota teens in the last 30 days is currently at 13%. Okay, and this is up from just 2.8% in 2012. So high use amongst youth, and again, incorporating these in your park policy would ensure that all tobacco products are treated equally. All right, there are vapors emitted from these devices, and those vapors are harmful to your health. They contain lots of different particulates listed there. There's carcinogenic compounds, tin particles. There's actually nicotine released in the vapors, so they are harmful to the health of those users and those around folks. All right, I had the leopard print, but there certainly is appealing to youth and children. Hello Kitty, e-juices. Mine's actually gummy bear flavored. I can pass these around too if you want to look at it. Charged with the USB device. Feel free to smell. I wouldn't taste. Again, not just water vapor, there's harmful chemicals in there. Next slide. All right, as a mom, this is the one that concerns me the most. You know, anything that you can put in a liquid form, you can put inside that device and vaporize with it. So many law enforcement are finding liquid marijuana, heroin, methamphetamines, and powdered cocaine within these devices being utilized not only in parks and outdoor facilities, but in indoor public places. All right, 7 counties and 18 cities across Minnesota have added e-cigarettes to their indoor air laws. Many others have included them in their park policies, and I'd highly encourage you to look at your tobacco licensing ordinances too to make sure e-cigarettes are included. Questions? That was like, I usually do it in an hour. So that was the quickened version.
Anybody got any questions?
So the banning would be banning the use of such a device in public places or in parks?
So I think the ordinance before you tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, would just be in regards to parks. I would be remiss as a healthcare person if I didn't come and advise you that many communities are addressing their indoor places. I don't think that's what's proposed tonight, but it's certainly within your jurisdiction to do so. If you look at the map in your packet, we have a large gap in central Minnesota. So right now, about 32% of the state have indoor air restrictions on e-cigarette use, protecting visitors and families and children. Here in central Minnesota, we are a gaping hole.
My question is, you could stick something that's not harmful in the device, so we're banning the device.
We're banning the use of the device. So it still would be...
that, but if that device is in a park, they put something else in there, say just vapors, how can you ban a device?
Yep, so again, it would be banning the use of it in a location or indoor place or park. It wouldn't be banning of the device. So certainly there could be nothing harmful inside the device, or there could be something extremely harmful inside the device. That is what you don't know. So that's where cities and counties have
the device is going to be banned.
For use in that particular place, not for purchase, not for use in your private place or residence or any other place that allows them.
They can have it on their person, they just can't use it in the park.
Yep.
Could use it as an inhaler.
It's not an inhaler of the type that you...
Yeah, so just...
for asthma or something.
So clarification, I think there's a lot of media around this being an effective cessation device, and currently there's no scientific research to back that up. So these devices are sold and treated like a tobacco product. And, FDA-approved devices go through much more scientific rigor to determine them safe and effective for use. They give treatment plans, they give dosing. If you look at the bottle, there's a handwritten label on the front of it. I think it says 18 milligrams on the bottle. So that's an 18 milligram bottle per milliliter of e-juice. So that's saying there's 18 milligrams of nicotine per milliliter. That equates to about 180 milligrams of nicotine per bottle. Right now, 6 milligrams is toxic enough to kill a 1-year-old child. 6 milligrams. So highly, highly, highly addictive, highly toxic nicotine levels in those bottles.
The interesting part of this is that it says that this may be fatal if swallowed. And they seem to expect you to put it in this and suck it into your lungs. Now, I'm not a smoker, and I never have been. So that puts me at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to understanding the severity of the craving or the difficulty in stopping smoking. And we've been beating up on smokers for a long time. And it's something that, I'm kind of waiting for someone to call it a handicapping condition to fall under ADA, which means you can't discriminate because of a handicapping condition, so suddenly smoking will be back all over the place. But it's a case where, are there provisions that we can do to kind of look after some of these people? That if they've been smoking all their lives, and it's not something that they've been able to get rid of, but yet are we supposed to use them as whipping boys and keep beating on them?
May I respond? Yeah, a couple things. Certainly as a healthcare organization, we have services to help those that are interested and ready to quit. We have a quit plan across Minnesota that provides free access for any Minnesotan that's ready to quit. They actually provide free nicotine replacement products to be mailed directly to the person's home. But you're right that quitting smoking is one of the hardest tasks a person goes through in life. I went through it when I was much younger, but I also was the typical person who started smoking. We know that 99% of the people that are currently smoking started before the age of 18. We also know that these products are beginning to open up the doors, that they're a gateway product. They are targeting our youth, with gummy bear flavored products and Hello Kitty designs and getting our young folks as next replacement users. That concerns me as a mom of a 10-year-old. Okay, so it isn't about punishing those that use. There's supportive services available to help. It's really about creating a brighter future for our young kids. I don't think any smoker today would tell you they want children to start using tobacco products. In our park facilities, as a mom that brings their children to parks, that's for playgrounds, that's for sports, that's for events. Most of your schools that use your parks facilities have tobacco policies already in place. Your athletic leagues have tobacco policies already in place. This really supports the essence of that environment.
Any other questions? Concerns? None? Thank you.
Yep. What's funny? Paraphilia.
What's the wish of the council on policy 28 amendment?
I think it's a good policy. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Alderman Herka to approve amendment policy number 28. Any discussion?
Yes, good, Mr. President. It seems to me that, when was the e-cigarette and vaporizing stuff put into this?
That was, probably about a week ago. I sent it over to, Michelle, predecessor. Michelle, who was that?
Countess.
It's kind of like a bait and switch here. I feel like you're trying to sell me a car. We were talking about a tobacco policy before, and despite what the reports have said, there's no tobacco in these things.
Not in the e-cigarettes, no. But
Yeah,
I sent it over to Michelle just because they
So you
were
got it a
the
week ago, I
original-
bet.
Yeah, they were the ones
That's
that
what I was
originally
looking
brought
for.
it to the Parks Board, and so I sent it to them and said, does this seem consistent with what we had talked about at the Parks Board? And at that point, she had brought up, well, the one that we were originally looking at was a couple years old from the template that we had. So that's when we started looking at the new stuff.
And can I just address one thing, that there is some tobacco within these devices. So it depends on where the nicotine was derived. If the nicotine was derived from a tobacco plant, then it does contain that tobacco-based nicotine. It also can be synthetically made too.
Okay, well, and I don't have scientific data. I have anecdotal data, as in I know people that have quit smoking using these devices, and they keep ratcheting down the amount of nicotine they're using to eventually it's zero. So for the folks I know, they work. Well, now they can't do it outside in a park. And I'm not pro-smoking, don't get me wrong, but it seems every time we turn, we're pinching on them more and more and more. So it used to be inside. The push was get it out of the inside of buildings and bars. Now we don't even want people to stand outside and have a smoke. The reality is our smoking population is getting older and older, and there's less and less of them around. And the cold hard reality is their grandparents, great-grandparents, they're dying off every day of old age, smoking complications. We're getting less and less naturally. So I'm for education and awareness, but not necessarily trying to make a law or an ordinance affecting behavior.
I don't think when they're gummy bear flavored and Hello Kitty design on it, that's targeted at grandparents.
Well, that's another subject here. That's the e-cigarette thing, which we can discuss. We're talking about tobacco. So, although I agree with you, I'm looking at it from a different angle. That is, grandma can't take the grandkids to the park and push them on the swing while they have a heater, so they're just gonna stay home and do nothing. And Frank, you brought up when we were talking about it at the work session, about the guy fishing. Is that really that offensive? The guy trying to catch a fish on Saturday afternoon and have a cigarette?
I'm looking at this in two ways. I know use of tobacco in the younger generation is on the rise from what I see. And young people are influenced very easy, especially if it's gummy bear flavored and things like that. I agree with you. And it is a health issue. It does bother me when I see young people all of a sudden rearing up, and a lot of them are starting to use cigarettes again. It's kind of a cool thing or vogue again. And beyond the dangers, I do have a little problem, and then here's the other side. Do we ban pipes from all parks? Because usually pipes are associated with tobacco. But kids have pipes and they blow bubbles out of them too, so you take away. So when I was looking at this device, I'm like, how do you ban a device? You know what I'm saying? It was kind of hard for me to
Just the use of the device.
Yeah, but if they have it out, we're going to claim they're using it. But anyway, okay.
Well, what's next? Diet Coke? It's bad for you, everybody knows it.
So our cookies.
Big Mac, you know, we're for health, so you can't have a Diet Coke and a Big Mac in a park. Is that next? You know, yeah, that's an exaggeration of the slippery slope, but it's coming. I mean, what is next? And as soon as we tackle this problem, something's always going to be next.
The thing is, your Diet Coke and your Big Mac, you can sit there and eat. You have a cigarette, you're sitting there across the picnic table from my 5-year-old son that's got asthma, and you light up a cigarette and blow it across the table and think nothing of it. If you want to do it, go sit in your car and do it. Go to your house and do it.
You can ask that.
You know?
I mean, that's educating smokers too. I mean,
Right.
the smoker could be
Right.
more courteous too.
Right. Well, for an example, I was down at Maple Island this weekend. Me and 5-year-old, we went down there for a walk. He goes to Piece of Ducks. Go down there, there's 4, possibly 5, 4 of them I seen smoking. They were 15 years old, sitting under the gazebo, puffing on a cigarette. You know, so right there, it's just.
Well, park ordinance isn't going to stop that. Obviously, they're smoking somewhere else too.
Right. But some get them out of our parks, like, see if they're gonna get by sitting in the basement at home smoking.
Okay, so then it'll be city parking lots and what's, I
have a question. So there's evidence that these e-cigarettes are also affecting people who are close by, just as if, well, it's the same as a cigarette? Or-
So it's different. Actually, some of the nicotine levels dispensed in vaporizers right now are testing higher than a nicotine level within a traditional cigarette. Some of the other secondhand smoke chemicals found, like formaldehydes and stuff that you typically find in traditional tobacco smoke, aren't found in those vaporizers. So it's kind of a mixed bag on what chemicals you're going to get. Another thing is none of the devices are regulated right now. So the bottle I passed around for you today, if I went to either the same store or the other store and ordered the exact same 18 milligram gummy flavored bottle, it really depends on whoever was behind the counter mixing that solution on what they put into the container. So there's no safety regulations, there's no ingredients disclosures, there's no regulations on like the cleanliness of mixing the compounds. There's no oversight whatsoever. So it's hard to kind of determine what's consistently in each of those vapors because it's almost like looking at apples and oranges. It's just kind of that rogue, unregulated, contents right now.
I'm kind of looking at Mr. Lilligren here. He said, this is kind of sprung upon us. Even at Parks and Rec, we discussed tobacco. We didn't really discuss e-cigarettes. So this is kind of a new thing. I'm kind of looking like I would like to know a little bit more about them before I can make a decision as far as the e-cigarettes, and do a little investigation on my own here, or if we come up with more information. But anyway, I would be in favor of tobacco-free cigarettes and maybe looking at a little more of the e-cigarette thing. Because as it was stated, some people actually are using them and it's taken away their desire to smoke. They're slowly taking it down. I'd like to see some information and do a little more investigation personally.
I think that's when we dealt with that about 2 years ago. we had a presentation here on e-cigarettes, and we voted to condemn them along with cigarettes. So that's been council action from at least 2-3 years ago, something like that.
I do not remember that, not the e-cigarette end.
I think the whole, I mean, to me, you know, when you look at this, it's basically saying, we just want to keep our park areas clean and smoke-free, basically, is what we're looking at. Now, I'm probably the only one up here, but I'm going to admit it, I'm a smoker. And I have been, and I've tried to quit, and it's not easy, it's tough. However, and I can go for a long period of time without smoking a cigarette, if I need to. I can go to a baseball game, I can go to a Twins game, I can go to a Vikings game, I can go on a train ride, I can fly 4.5 hours on an airplane. I can go visit someone that doesn't smoke, and I don't have to smoke in their house or their yard or whatever. If I'm at some place where it bans smoking, if I really need one, I can walk across the street, get out of the way, and smoke it over there if I need to. You know, and I agree. You know, the butts thrown presents a hazard. Having grandkids that pick them up. You know, what's this, Grandpa? Well, don't touch that. You know. It's not good, you know, but yet quitting smoking is difficult, you know. And yes, I know we get nagged, I get nagged all the time about it, you know. But I think the general consensus that what I get from this is that we're looking at something that says, hey, we want to keep our community healthy. We want to keep our open air, our spaces free from the tobacco. If you want to take your kids on the swing set, go and play. You shouldn't have to smoke while you're playing with your kids on a swing set in a park, kind of a thing, or you know, or just be courteous. There's really no law that's going to enforce this. It's just simply going to be someone that says, well, here's a sign, you know, would you please quit smoking, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know if we need to really get into, we're going to ban these devices and this kind of thing, you know. I think if the sign's up there, there's no tobacco use, it should mean tobacco use for anything, and you just don't use it here.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, and with this being a policy, it's not necessarily a go to jail type of thing on a violation.
I see no go to jail. The only thing I see for the consequence is they ask you to leave the park.
Yeah, because our jail ain't big enough.
So there's no consequences for repeat offenders. You have the same one down there day in and day out, and
There's not one written in here.
right.
It's just to ask them to leave.
It's just a policy.
So we can put some teeth into this.
You could make it an ordinance, you know, and then prescribe a penalty for it. Sure.
So we could adopt a policy and see how it handles. If there's problems where nothing's getting resolved, we could move forward with switching it to an ordinance and putting some ramifications behind it.
Don't you think our police forces have better things to do than police parks looking for smokers?
I don't know.
Don't make it sound too good.
It's walk down there. I know there's signs that you know, you're supposed to pick up your dog waste in the parks too, but you got people who walk along and think nothing of it.
Mr. President, could I call the question?
Sure.
We've discussed this long enough.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor of said motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, ladies. Resolution 2015-49, approve plans and specs, call for bids, public improvement, CIR sidewalks.
Jeremy, you want to jump off when you skip the amendment road maintenance?
Road maintenance agreement, Pike Creek.
On page 24, I did hand out before the meeting an updated road maintenance agreement. I did add one sentence at the very end of the agreement that says any future paving shall be at the township's expense. If you recall that there has been some interest from Pike Creek Township to basically turn back 2,000 feet of that road on 130th Avenue or 13th Street Northwest back to gravel. We're having some issues in terms of keeping that road in a passable condition just because of the soils underneath it as well as the heavy trucks coming over it. And so they're looking at reverting back to gravel for that section. I would say, I feel that they're probably going to end up paving it at some point in time. That's the reason I added that section back into there, because knowing that the water table is so close and the subgrades are poor in that area, a blacktop road is going to be easier to maintain as opposed to a gravel road in there. So I added that section just to kind of cover the city's side of it, such that if they decide to pave it, because half of the road is technically ours, and it was their decision to turn it back to gravel, they didn't want us to end up having to pay a portion of it. So tonight we've got a maintenance agreement in front of you with Pike Creek Township. We did have one that was put together in 2013, and that basically said we would take care of from Trunk Highway 27, the first 3,300 feet, and from 3,300 feet to the first mile is what Pike Creek Township would maintain. So that's the gist of the road agreement.
What's the wish of the council?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Mayor Zilka, second by Councilman Hanson, to approve the amended road agreement with Pike Creek Township. Discussion?
What kind of timeline does the township have for reverting to gravel?
I know they've indicated they want to do it yet this summer, but nothing is spelled out in here in terms of when they can.
Yeah, it seems that the last time I drove that road, it appeared to be in pretty decent shape.
I know their biggest problems is in the spring when you get the heavy loads from, well, plow trucks as well as semi-trucks going down to the repair shop there when the load restrictions are on. And that seems to have the frost boils and the frost heaves in that section just because of the type of soils that they're seeing.
Really, the problem's the culvert goes underneath the road. That's the biggest area they have issue with the speed bump. But I'm just not, they just took this over 2 years ago. Now they're turning half of our road back into gravel.
I would say if they're going to ultimately go with blacktop again, this is kind of the process that they would do. Normally, in a situation like this with that type of soils, I would blend the blacktop with class 5, similar to what they're doing. Allow it to set over a freeze-thaw cycle to get some of those areas out, and then I would pave it the following summer. So if they don't pave it next year, it'll probably be the one after that if they don't do anything at all. That's what I suspect, just from my experience.
Well, after talking to some of the township supervisors, their reasoning is they don't have money to pave it. Well, if they don't have money to pave it this year, to me, they're not going to have money to pave it next year. They're going to spend $50,000 or $100,000 on going in there, milling it up, and relaying it down. They can be back next year to dig it out and put asphalt back in there.
Well, I wouldn't dig it out. I would leave that as a good aggregate base, and then.
Well, they're going to have to do something. They're going to put 4 inches of asphalt in there. They're going to do something with the top layer. They ain't going to take 4 inches out from underneath and put it back on top.
They'll blend up. Think of it like a tiller. You're going to blend that 4 inches of asphalt with class 5, and when you blend that together, it gets a pretty hard base. But again, it doesn't correct the subgrade issues of, in that area, so it could still be a problem for them.
Greg, is it part of the president agreement that they have to maintain it so it's passable or something not passable, or what does that read? Because I know it gets pretty bad in this.
The current agreement basically says what you have in front of you, with the exception of including paving and future maintenance. It doesn't say what type of condition that pavement has to stay in. It just says pavement and maintenance. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure that it is passable. That's part of the maintaining the road, but it doesn't quantify what level the maintenance is.
Once again, it's passable could be based on interpretation.
That's true.
Somebody in a John Deere could probably get across there pretty well, where me and my Ford pickup, I bounce all over, so.
As long as your car doesn't bottom out.
I don't know, I'll just put the shoe on the other foot here if we're gonna do this to them on our section that we got that I have a feeling that there'd be
Also,
quite a bit of controversy over the whole deal on,
yeah, regardless of how we vote on this, what right does the city have to control a township road?
half the roads
Half
ours.
ours.
We're in agreement with them. Maintenance agreement.
So the deal is with this, Lauren, we have a mile of road. We own the right side, they own the left side. Okay, so we didn't want to plow all the right side, and they plow the left side, so we took the first half a mile and we're taking care of both sides of the road. They took the second half mile, they're taking care of that. So now, the road is half the city's, but this is a maintenance agreement that we,
So that's a boundary as opposed to a
right,
cutoff in the middle.
right.
Right.
So they're gonna leave the north end tar. You have people driving down there, and all of a sudden, you go from tar to dirt, and you're gonna be sliding around.
At 60 miles an hour.
Speed limit's
To me,
55.
it's also a safety issue, we're
75.
talking about here.
We asked them to put up 2 signs, one on each end that says pavement ends.
Yeah.
Well, I see those a lot of times when it goes from tar to the other, because and I think the reverse part is if we tell them they have to pave it, and it costs all their taxpayers a few dollars, because I don't know how many that's divided amongst there, I don't think they'll be extremely happy with that either way.
I know the property owner ain't happy with it, because that was kind of one of those backdoor deals too, so. The township side. Any other discussion? You got a motion? By Zilka, second by Hanson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Aye.
Roll call, please.
Call roll.
Let's see, Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren,
No.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hampler,
No.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
No.
Knopfler,
No.
Boyum,
No.
fails.
Resolution 2015-49, approve plans and specs, call for bids, public improvement VIR sidewalks.
Tonight I have the plans and specs for the sidewalk improvements that we had a public hearing for. I will make couple of changes to those bid documents. We'll have July 1st as the bid date, and the owners would have until June 30th to complete their work in front of their own property. And I'll add an option to have for the contractor to grind the various panels, in addition to what we currently have in the specs. So tonight we'll be looking at approval to get the advertisement for bids out for the sidewalk project. We'll probably wait a little while until it's a little closer to the bid date, but we would like approval tonight for move forward with that.
What's the wish of the council on resolution 2015-49?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Hanson, second by Mayor Zilka, to approve resolution 2015-49. Discussion? Hearing none, resolution, call the roll, please.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hampler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Resolution 2015-51.
Resolution 2015-51 is a resolution that we will need to pass in order to sell bonds for our petition projects for this year, something that the IRS requires us to do.
What is the wish of the council?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2015-51.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Councilman Knopfler, for resolution 2015-51. Any discussion? Resolution, call roll, please.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hampler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren.
Yes.
Carries.
Resolution 2015-53, declare surplus property and authorize sale of.
We received some property through the demolition of the old Jiffy Clark station over there. So this resolution is to declare that stuff, as well as the bicycles, those items surplus, and to dispose of them. Put them on the city auction.
What's the wish of the council on resolution 2015-53?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Gushek, second by Alderman Hercog for resolution 2015-53, declare surplus property. Any discussion?
Yes, real quick, if I could, Mr. President, on the sign, I mean, if you watch TV, that might be something that's desirable to somebody, so you said dispose of, is that a generic term for attempt to sell first?
Yes, that's a generic term to sell.
Okay,
yes.
that's all I need, thank you.
All of this stuff is sell.
Any other discussion? Resolution, call a roll, please.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushek,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Goya,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka.
Yes.
Carries.
City council reports, authorities, boards, bureaus, committees, commissions. Anybody have anything? Nine people a day hearing, Wednesday.
Yep, May 6th.
And planning commission public hearing, May 11th, 6:30. All the chambers, conditional use, Anderson custom processing, and vacate utility and drainage easement. Walk 3 Sunrise Edition. We are adjourned.